Welcome everyone to, I guess this 2 years, probably not to the day, since the first OUSA forum. So this is number 25. And we have Barb Bryant of Navigation Games to tell us about her navigation games and others who have been helping them experience uh, promoting orienteering to educators at conferences and events across the US. Just a note, I don't know whether there will be any detailed map rating or other things that it matters, but to get the best view of her presentation, you click on the three dots for more options if you're on a computer, and adjust view, spotlight view. Should get it as big as it can be got. So with that, over to you, Barb.
Great, I will share my screen. Awesome. Okay, great. So tonight I'm going to be talking about one type of outreach that Orienteering USA is supporting, which is orienteering workshops at conferences for educators. Oh, and I should say that this photograph is from one of the educator conferences that we've been attending. And this is from an American Camp Association meeting in Wisconsin. This is something that Mary Frank shared with me today. These are stats about the outreach that DVOA is doing, educating the public about orienteering and map navigation. So these are their educational services. Just over the years, how many different participants they've had in their amazing outreach efforts. All educational events are valuable and have the potential to bring in new orienteers and spread awareness about our sport. The conference project is something that Navigation Games, a member club of Orienteering USA, has taken on over the last few years. And what we're going to do in this hour is to talk about what that is, why we're doing it, how we're doing it. And then we're going to go through a couple of example workshops, one from Grizzlyo and one from that I've been presenting. And then I'd like to open it up for other people who are on the call to talk about some aspects of their experience in working with teachers. And then we'll talk about how you can get involved and have a more general discussion. So what I'm hoping comes out of tonight is that I will be getting your awareness of and support for OUSA's investment in this project. Hopefully I'll motivate you to present at a conference yourself. And then also as a side effect, you'll see how my club Navigation Games operates in schools. So educator conferences, typically there are workshops that you can apply to give at these conferences. They're like 45 to 90 minutes long, typically. Sometimes you also have the opportunity to get an exhibition table. And this is one from a couple days ago when I was at a conference in Alabama. The reason that we got interested in going to these conferences is a train the trainer modality where we ultimately reach more people and more kids by working with the educators. So also, in addition to that, there's an opportunity to learn from the other presenters at the conference and to make connections. So for example, I've learned a lot from conferences on experiential education about how to teach in a very interactive and thoughtful way that encourages sort of deep learning and student engagement. Another thing that I learned at a conference was an approach called Games for Understanding. And then when I was at this conference in Alabama yesterday, I met Scott McClure, who's the director of education for an organization called Outdoor Adventures. And they work with over 1,500 schools across the country and might be willing to include orienteering in their curriculum. So by going to these conferences, we can make connections like that. So the goals that I have for the participants in the workshops that I give at conferences are, first of all, that they have fun actively trying out one or more activities. I want them to come away knowing and hopefully having experienced what orienteering really is, because they might not know coming in or might have a different idea than me coming in. And I'd like them to leave wanting to attend a local club's orienteering event. I want them to feel motivated to teach orienteering and to feel like they're able to teach independently of outside help. So they don't need to bring an orienteer into their school. They can teach themselves. I also want them to know how to request an orienteering map getting made from Orienteering USA's youth mapping project, or get a map made in some other way. I want them to know that they can find lesson plans and activity descriptions freely online, and that there's an approach that works really well for teaching kids of having a progression of age-appropriate games. And finally, I want them to know how to reach out and get more information. So these are my goals for the participants at our educator workshops. These are some numbers for conferences that we have attended or been accepted for or applied to date. You can see that there are a bunch of different states that we've been in and different types of conferences. Physical education being the most common, but also a bunch of experiential ed, environmental ed, and others. And I welcome suggestions for other conferences to attend. Many people have been involved in this project. Looking at this list makes me really happy. It's a group endeavor. And you can see that orienteers from a bunch of different clubs have been involved. Navigation Games received an Orienteering USA grant. We sent the request to the board in February and it was approved. The purpose it being to activate orienteers to present at educator conferences, and the amount is $3,500. That is for a combination of costs for conference fees and travel costs, and then money for navigation games for us to pay somebody to help with outreach to clubs, drafting, just managing the whole process, including meeting with presenters before and after the conference and following up with the attendees of the conference. So Emily Weisner in Minnesota, the Minnesota Orienteering Club, is the one that we hired to manage all of this stuff. So she does a bunch of work. I meet with her weekly to go through this. The conference speaker, once they're identified and have signed on, they'll attend some meetings with us before and after the conference. They'll sign off on the workshop language and then prepare and deliver the workshop. But Emily will do a lot to support them. Just a few example outcomes from what has happened as a result of these presentations at conferences. So we presented at the New Hampshire Environmental Education Conference, and the director from Camp Belknap was there. He ended up getting a map made through OUSA YMP, and a curriculum was designed by Navigation Games. We met with him several times over the spring, and then he implemented it by training his counselors at the camp to deliver orienteering. And a couple of MIT PE professors attended the Massachusetts PE Teachers Conference, and that ended up turning into us teaching an 11 class unit at MIT for PE. And those PE teachers are going to take it over and teach it themselves starting in the spring. We went to an American Camp Association meeting in Wisconsin, and after that regional conference, we are now working with the national organization. We'll be delivering a webinar on December 19th to camps around the country and encouraging them to apply for a grant that's been made available for many things, but we're going to suggest that they use it for, among other things, to implement orienteering at their camp. We presented at Shape Vermont, which is the PE Vermont conference, and several teachers in different school districts have engaged OUSA to get a map made and Navigation Games to help set up their curriculum. So it seems like it's valuable to attend. Just getting feedback directly from participants. They love these workshops. They have fun in them and are motivated to try orienteering themselves and to teach it. I just want to point out that what makes a good workshop, above all, in my opinion, is to get people moving around and playing, which is not what I'm doing in this webinar. So this is a bad example, but I have a little example. I hope you can see this little video of just from a couple days ago. It's got people moving around and trying out animal orienteering. Okay, so I'm going to turn this over for a few slides to Kathleen Dent from Grizzly Orienteering to talk about her experience recently at a conference in Montana. Kathleen?
Good evening, everybody. And Boris is also on the call, so he and I presented together. So Boris can jump in whenever he wants to, too. We applied to present at the annual educators conference, which is during that October time period where teachers get professional development. And they come from all over our state. So there were about 1,000 teachers attending. There were scads of sessions on all different topics, and ours was entitled Orienteering Across the Curriculum, Active Learning for Every Subject. And we had 8 participants in various subjects, but what that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you see the slate of sessions and how many divisions there were, we felt really good. We didn't know if we'd get 0 or 1, or so we felt pretty good with 8, and they were across the state. And in Montana, it takes 10 hours to get across the state, and Grizzly Orienteering is in the western part of the state. So there's not a lot of awareness. There's not a lot of understanding at all. And also we get these people excited, and then it's really far for them to come to an event, but it's a good start anyway. Can you advance it, please? So our goals for the workshop were, first of all, to build awareness and a definition of what in the world is orienteering as a sport. And my emphasis is more as a lifelong activity. I'm a longtime educator, curriculum director, principal, on and on and on. And I really see the value in starting kids young in finding out things that they're going to be able to do forever. And also, it's a great way for teachers to get out and kind of release some stress and that kind of thing. So we talked to the teachers about how it could apply to them also. The other thing that is important to me is to connect the skills to classroom of any age. Anytime you give a professional development for teachers, it needs to be relevant. It needs to be something that they can walk away with. It needs to be something that they can see doing, whether they're teaching kindergarten, high school, PE, earth science, it doesn't matter. There's got to be kernels in there of things that are important for them to teach and hard maybe for them to teach, and how orienteering or those basic skills can help kids start to get some of those important skills like problem solving, critical thinking, analysis. And I want to talk a little bit about uncertain outcomes. I started to talk about how it's important to provide areas for kids to fail, and Boris didn't really like that. So I'm calling it uncertain outcomes. Orienteering is such an important sport because there's no course, there's no court, there's no specific place or way to do it. And so that really goes deep in thinking skills, and you make mistakes and then you have to learn from them. So that's really awesome. And it also, excuse me, we also worked on connecting to the curriculum areas and standards like PE, social studies and geography, earth science, math, and science. Just a sec. Sorry, I've had this little tickle. Okay, go ahead. Next one. So the steps that we did were pre-planning. We had the mapping assistance to make a map of the campus, which was wonderful. After the introduction, excuse me, I think Boris, go ahead. I'm gonna get a drink.
Boris, can you step in if you're there?
I'm driving a bunch of children.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay, no problem.
No, I was not planning to jump in. I apologize.
I got it. Okay, so we'll just come back to Kathleen. But let's see. We'll wait. Here she is.
Sorry.
We're gonna let you finish up.
Oh, okay. I hope I live to see the end. After the introductions, teachers went outside and completed one of two of the courses. And then we came back into the classroom and discussed to debrief. And then in the classroom activities, we did some more to show them that they don't really need the equipment. And that's important because the first thing they'll say is, well, I don't have all these things. So we did Animal O and Geometry O, and then we discussed and shared application in the with the individual teachers' classrooms. And it was amazing what they came up with that they could connect to. We had one teacher who was in high school math, and he just took off with it. We had another teacher who was in a private school and could see how they could go out to different areas and do it. We had one person who was an earth science teacher, and she'd been doing something like that. And then one of my favorites was a Spanish teacher who had done an activity where she blindfolded one kid in pairs, and the other kid had to give directions to all throughout the school. And she goes, oh, this is going to be so much better for that activity. So she was really excited about, and they had to do it all in Spanish. So she was really excited about that. And then at the very end, we provided links and lesson plans and contact information. And so all in all, it was really successful, but you never know what the impact is going to be. So last Saturday, we had an event here in Missoula, and we got an email from a teacher that said, oh, darn, I was going to come to the event with my husband. I was at the teachers conference, and I'm really excited about this, and I want to do it. So it wasn't a huge impact, but I think just getting the word out there and getting the just learning what orienteering is and being aware that there's something that you can do like that, either in the classroom or for yourself. So it was pretty successful, I think. And again, I apologize for coughing.
Thanks a lot, Kathleen. That's awesome. I really love that you had time to talk with each attendee about how they could envision it in their classroom, because if they can, talk through that, it's much more likely that they'll do it. So I'm going to run pretty quickly through what I do in a typical workshop that I'll present at, say, a PE teachers conference. So I often start off with having this slide up, or a slide like this, so that they can, as they come in, they've got something to check out and look at. Sometimes I'll spread orienteering maps around the room for them to look at while they're waiting for it to start. I usually have a QR code that goes to this website, a Google site that we have with a lot more resources. I'll say what we're going to talk about and tell them what I hope they'll walk away from the activities with. And then I'll say my take-home message is that they can use orienteering in their school. We have lesson plans they can use. They don't need a lot of equipment to get started. We have resources available, and Orienteering USA can help you make a map. Then I talk about the sport of orienteering, and a lot of people, if they know about orienteering, they have a kind of a wrong idea about it, which is that it's about following a bearing for a certain distance without even a map. And I say, no, orienteering, at least my definition of it, is that it involves a map and involves navigating to checkpoints that are shown on a map. And I talk about how orienteering maps are super detailed. Then I talk about orienteering as a sport that is regulated by national and international governing bodies that hold championships. I talk about how traditionally it's done in the woods or the wilderness, but that over the last few decades, there's a version of it that's done in urban areas. And the traditional format being this point-to-point, but that it's really great to do a score format where you can start everyone at once and have a deadline, and then people get as many as they want and can get to during that time. That's a really good format for a limited period of a class. Then I talk about our pedagogical approach, which is to create a progression of fun activities to engage every child and to build skills in a fun way. I talk about our touchstone is not only that we want to develop orienteering skills, but also that we want to do it in a way that is age appropriate and developmentally appropriate. And I talk about the orienteering development model that Orienteering USA created, where the first level is just about having fun and playing and not even touching a map yet. I talk about that connection to standards, to learning outcomes that teachers are held accountable for by their schools. Kathleen mentioned that. And I also mentioned that we learned a lot from experiential learning techniques. Orienteering is a map and compass sport, but we do not use the compass because when we're beginning to teach, we want kids to relate the map to the objects around them and not have something else confusing them. We also don't even use the map in the beginning. Instead, we start with fun games that lead up to map understanding. The curriculum that I'm going to run you through now is what is implemented in schools in Cambridge, Massachusetts. It's been taught by PE teachers since 2019. And we also have additional programs and curricula for middle and high school. So we start off with running the boundary of the area together in single file, and then exploring within that area and gathering on the teacher's signal. So those are safety things, but they're also about exploring the space. We ask kids to go find a couple animals and come back and point out where they are. And then we do clue sheet orienteering, where you're given a clue sheet and you have to find the animals in the order shown from top to bottom. Navigation Games sells a kit for $200 that contains materials for that and other activities. We have a subset of the kit with just Animal O that's for sale as well. And we also will give people the PDFs for free if they want to print and laminate these materials themselves. The next activity is geometric orienteering, where we put the animal pictures in a sort of a grid. And then we have landmark objects or cones around the edges to help with orienting the map. The goals of Geometric O, the activity, are to be able to relate a map to objects around you, to do progressively harder orienteering courses, and to keep the map oriented as you navigate a course. If the kids are younger, we will slow down this activity and, for example, we'll give them a map that just has a single checkpoint circled and they have to go and stand next to that with their map oriented. We'll also have the kids help us fix a map that we've drawn wrong and orient it, or maybe we'll have them draw their own map. So there's a lot of variations. The next activity we do in Cambridge is to make a drawing of the space, like a Where's Waldo kind of isometric drawing, and then orienteer on that. This is on the right, you can see an example of our lesson plans. This is our one-page summary of a lesson plan. We also have a more detailed lesson plan, and all of this is available for free on our website. Our next lesson is another clue sheet activity, but now instead of animals, we've got orienteering map symbols. We relate with the kids the picture map to the orienteering map and have a bunch of activities around that. And then we end up doing a real orienteering course in the 6th lesson. So that's our elementary school progression. And once we've gone through that, then there's a lot of other orienteering games that we can play. And we have these described online as well. We also talk a little bit about starting on after-school teams or clubs, and finish with the take-home messages again. That orienteering is really good for kids. They learn a lot. It's not just a wilderness activity, and for teachers, it's easy to get started teaching because we can supply activity descriptions and tell them how to get equipment and maps made. We recommend strongly that the teachers go orienteering themselves and tell them how to find their local orienteering clubs. And then we say that we're available to help. If they want to contact us, we'll set up a meeting and talk through what they might do. And then we list various kinds of resources and talk about those, especially the youth mapping project from OUSA. Then I'll typically have them go outside and do a team score-o. Orienteering USA will make maps for these conferences if you don't have another way to get a map made. And this is one that we did in Colorado. We'll give them instructions. You have to be back by a certain time, stay with your team, etc. This is another map that YMP made for a conference. In this one, I didn't, I went there with a blank map and then walked around and picked control locations and then had a marker with me so I could make many copies of the course map for people. When I went to Alabama, I thought I was going to do it all inside. And then when I got there, I looked again at the description of my workshop and realized that I had promised that we were going to be going outside. So I got OCAD up on my computer, made a quick orienteering map of the parking lot of the hotel, went over to FedEx to get it printed, and we did an outdoor activity. I always like to point out that a lot of people contributed to the development of this progression of activities. Great, so that's a quick run through of what I do when I'm presenting at our educator conference. And I just wanted to open it up now and see if other people who are on the call would like to share anything about their experience, whether it's like what was the best thing for you about, or something surprising about doing this. Maybe you could tell us about an outcome, something that happened after the conference as a result of your presentation. Maybe you have some advice for us, something that you yourself learned. So I just wanted to open it up and see if anyone else would like to talk about their experience.
Yeah, Barb, Jim Arsenault here. I just did one that Barb and crew had set up actually 10 days ago for the New Hampshire, PE, dance, health, and recreation folks up at Waterville Valley. I had 50 minutes for the session, so I was really sort of pressed for time, or felt pressed for time. But I'd made a map of the area, took me total maybe 10 hours, and set up a small orienteering course. Weather was, I promised outside, it was chilly, it was breezy, not everybody was dressed appropriately, but we started off about 10 minutes inside, just a brief introduction, set them out on a 500-meter, point-to-point course. First, because I wanted to sort of get them a chance to, you're adults, you should be able to understand this. It was a simple map. Just go to a course. We met then in the back behind the conference center. And I had set up Animal O and Geometric O using two different sets of cones, sizes of cones. And it's like, let's try this, let's try this. And so they were running almost the whole time and trying different stuff. And then a quick debrief back inside. There was a couple of folks there that had been at the Shape Vermont session that also came to the New Hampshire one and were, asking questions. Hey, how can I get the sport ident equipment? They don't have the kits. They aren't in stock. You can order all the individual pieces. But what I also did is when I gave them the map that you're going to use for the course, it's like on the back side, here's the key takeaways. Here's OUSA. Here's a link to the youth mapping project. Here's a link to the lesson plans instead of all those resources. Here's links and contact information for navigation games. I have one of the kits. This is what they can help provide you. And then also a link for Up North Orienteers, the New Hampshire Club. And also I gave them, here's my email address. If you have any questions, reach out. I will go out and help. I will find other folks in the club to go out and help. And hoping that that's going to, give us some results. I had maybe 20 folks there in the conference. In my session, there was I think 8 other things going on at the same time. So I felt that that was fairly good outcome, good participation.
That's great. Thanks, Jim. I love that idea of providing the information on the back of the map. And yeah, great. Mary Frank, you just, I know you do a lot of education, but you just did one of the conferences. Do you want to talk about your experience?
Sure. Mark and I, actually, Mark's right here.
Oh, hey, Mark.
So we went to the Shape, Pennsylvania, PA, Shape, PA, and it happens to be like 10 minutes from where Mark grew up, which was kind of cool. And we ended up getting there early, kind of getting a feel for it. I actually enjoyed it because I teach outdoor ed sometimes too. So I got to see a few new team building activities, which of course we all know you can do team building with orienteering too. So, but anyway, we ended up the last class of the day, 45 minutes. We knew we didn't have a lot of time to do a lot of orienteering pieces because first I always like when I do programs to find out where they're coming from. So I had everybody introduce themselves. I also know that they don't always sign up on those QR codes. So I had them sign their name, email address, and school. That way we had an idea who these people were and, in the future follow up. And I was able to send Barb that email of names too. That way she has a record. Part of DVOA's charter is education. It's first. So for our charter for DVOA. So, and Mark's been doing orienteering since when? 1987, 80?
What, the education?
Educational.
84.
So educational services, he called it, since 1984. So this was kind of up the alley of what we like to do anyway. So finding out that I had high school, college, and also elementary school educators, and also somewhere in the midst of trying to figure out how to do orienteering already. So I just like to have that, follow up with, then doing an in-classroom game, explain to them what the Animal O was, but we didn't really have a lot of time. So a few slides, information, and then we were basically done. So, but I think we had really good feedback. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. And it was interesting that in the SHAPE conference, there was a person from Bay Area. There was a person from Vermont. There were a couple people from New Jersey. A guy from Temple University who was aware of the map I made at Temple Ambler was looking at trying to figure out how he could introduce it at the main campus in Philadelphia. So there, as Mary said, I thought it was interesting to start out with everybody introducing themselves and finding out, where they were from and what they were looking for. So I thought that was a good piece, although we had very limited time.
Yeah. 45 minutes, not a lot of time to do a lot. So we, again, did a very simple in-classroom kind of thing that we do a lot. So, which, kind of worked out super well.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to talk about their experience?
Hello. Can I share my experience? My name is Tatiana Rvacheva. I'm from New York City, and I have my group for 5 years already, based on Russian-speaking community. So I work with kids from 6 to 11, 12 years old. They're actually just growing, so probably I will teach and older kids too. But we had just basic sport activity. And the thing is that it's like regular thing every Saturday. Kids come with the parents. And so recently the kids are growing. I decided to introduce orienteering for them. And what I was really excited to hear about the feedback that the parents were also very curious what how to do this. So, and like my goal, actually, I want to do like at least twice a month something related with orienteering. Actually, we planned like the first course was like real orienteering, like it was like a bigger map of the field where we are usually work out. So all the kids were familiar with the field and they knew the border, so it was very safe. And sometimes I put like artificial objects like bicycle or something. And so it's like pretty complicated maybe for the start. But what I realized that step by step, they're getting the idea. And even like my own child, 6 years old, then we tried like sprint orienteering and everything. So they are getting it pretty quick and the kids really love it. So now what we are working on throughout the winter season to have this, and I actually would love to do research about the materials which you have on the website and everything. So to give some basic, like more structured thing, and then set the goal that we can go, for example, to competitions because they are all excited about this. And also what I've noticed that kids like the idea really to get like the medal and prize for the thing which they really achieve. So not just the participation, but when they see the result of their actions. So this is my like not a really big experience, but we just started, and I'm very optimistic about to combine like this activity for kids and for adults. So I hope that we can like transfer it more for spring season and participate more.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about how you can get involved. So we are continuing this program into next year, this idea of activating orienteers to present at local conferences. It'd be nice if we could hit some more states. We have a Google site. This is on Navigation Games where I'm just going to go right to that site. So this is our site where we dump everything like lesson plans and workshops, slide decks, and so forth. But we do have in here under the workshop section, a delivering workshops at conferences page. And it talks about what the time commitment might be. Let me get this bigger. It talks about what you might include in your workshop. And it has an example workshop activity plan and lists people that I know who have presented at at conferences. And then it also has another page with a sort of a template for delivering a workshop, which I refer to each time I'm about to do another conference. You might switch it up and not do all of this, but this is at least a starting point for people. So I certainly I encourage people to, do to present the workshop in any way that works for them. But I kind of want to come back to these goals that I talked about in the beginning, that we want the participants, the educators, to have fun themselves, understand orienteering, be motivated to teach, know how to find a map and lesson plans, consider having age appropriate instruction, and know where to get more information. So it's really fun and interesting to present at these conferences, and the idea is to kind of cover all of the United States by having us work together as a team with people from around the country, instead of having like me fly all over the place and do it. So that's the ultimate goal. So I'd like to open it up for discussion. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
I have a question, Barb. Do you have any conferences that you need filled right now?
Yeah, we have a list of conferences, and basically we're looking at those different categories of types of conferences, you know, PE, experiential ed, environmental ed, and many of them have one conference a year in each state. So Emily is keeping a list of them all. In fact, I might be, and so we don't have all of them here. Basically, if we find an orienteer who is interested in giving a presentation at a work or at a conference, we can look and see what's near them in these different categories of conferences. So yeah, if you're interested, we could probably connect you with one. I do want to also hit the national conference for PE in 2027. So I'm looking ahead to that, and I'd like to have a more organized approach to that instead of just me doing my usual thing. I'd like to kind of get together with other orienteers who are interested in education and outreach and make sure that we have a really good presentation that makes sense and is cohesive, and maybe a set of multiple presentations at that national conference, and kind of make a big splash and talk about orienteering and maybe come in with, yeah. So I think that would be good. How come this isn't loading?
Barb, this is Mark Frank. You don't need to. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Mark.
So I think one of the things that we saw in arriving early was that the session at noon on Friday had 50, 60 people ahead of us. And then it went to 30. And then with us, it went down to 16 because it was the last session and they had been there a couple days. But I think one of the things that if we, you know, and I think Mary and I are interested in any programs in the general, you know, 100, 200 mile area around us, that, you know, we should arrive or try to be there for both days and have a table, because we saw the different groups with their tables. And so I think if your session isn't immediate, you have the chance for people to walk by, talk to you, and then maybe attend that session.
Yeah, that's great. Right. So if you can get a table and to be there before your session, then you might get more attendees at your session. That makes sense.
And is there like a display that's been created as far as, you know, like a backdrop or something, like, and saying orienteering scares people sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times when I meet people, I say I do either a navigation game or map hiking. You know, I don't always say orienteering because it sometimes does scare people.
Right. So
it's like we need to have like a nice little introduction before we hit them with orienteering, you know, because they automatically think that it's a Compass activity if they were taught that. So it's like rebranding that, you know, what it is.
That's a good question of how to work up a nice display for an exhibit table. And I don't have an answer. Like, we have our navigation game stuff. In fact, I should have mentioned too that we're now starting to send navigation games kits to presenters, to orienteers who are going to workshops, if they want to show our kit and use it. So that's something that you can show at the table. But I don't know if, you know, chime in if people have ideas for how to make an attractive looking table at a conference.
Look at Atlantic City.
I usually have a bunch of orienteering maps there, of course.
If you could have a, you know, sort of a display and be running, I'll say 2 alternating very short clips of one being sort of orienteers running through the forest, like was done up in the Pacific Northwest, of, hey, here's our local juniors running through the terrain, gives you a real sense of what it is, and alternate that with early elementary kids doing Animal O or Geometric O.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. That's good.
it's like this.
Right.
This is sort of the ultimate, and this is how you can help them start, and it's fun.
Yeah. I love it. So videos on display. Joe?
Can you sell the kits directly at the conference if someone wants to buy one?
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
So you're going to send one kit. Should you send a couple or just sell that one and then people can order?
We could do that. I mean, it's easy enough for us to send them out afterwards. And yeah, so maybe having one on display, and then if somebody wants. Another thing that happens at some of these conferences too is that they have a fundraiser, sometimes like a, what do you call it?
A raffle.
A raffle or a silent auction.
Yeah.
And they invite vendors to donate things that kits or equipment. So sometimes that's an option as well. So we could consider possibly donating a kit to that to get it out there. But I think the best thing to do would be to send one kit to the presenter. You can have that as a demonstration. At the end of it, you could even sell that one kit to somebody right there if you wanted, and then they can order online and we could send it. And then schools, sometimes they do invoicing, so they might not have cash or a credit card, but we could invoice them through whatever the normal channels are for them to buy stuff. And that works fine.
Another thing that could be nice to have at the conferences, especially like the one we just attended, would be the year-end wrap-up that OUSA does.
Yeah.
Because a few years ago, the club, contacted OUSA and bought like 25, 30 of them that you can give out to people that are very, very interested, because
magazine
that kind of shows that it's going on all around the country.
Yeah, I love
maps.
Yeah, I love those.
Yeah,
Yep.
so it's something that OUSA could provide, for these kind of conferences, so that when they go to print, instead of printing just enough for the membership, they could print 1,000 or more type of deal as a part of their costs. I mean, we as DVA are more than willing to purchase them because they're, it's really outside of the maps. It's the only marketing tool that I'm aware of.
for nationally. So, but Tatiana has her hand up.
Tatiana.
Yes, thank you. I have a question, as I have two scholars in New York City. Do you have like a path how to introduce to schools orienteering and probably try to implement it in after school program or in school so can I, for example, because I have connections in PTA, for example, and I have like email of principal and everything, and okay, let's see, look at this, like a great sport, it's like develop this and this skills. Where can I address them? Send to conference or somewhere?
Yeah, maybe we should talk more. Maybe we should just get on the phone with you, Tatiana, and talk about what might work with the particular contacts that you have made. I don't have an answer, answer, but we at Navigation Games, we work with schools and administrators and after schools, so we can share our experience and how we've done it. So maybe we should we'll arrange to have a meeting with you and kind of talk through what you could do.
Okay, thank you.
We do have a video. It might be a little outdated now on our Navigation Games website that kind of sometimes we send people to that. It's like 10 minutes long and explains our progression of activities. So that might be one possibility. But yeah, I think the key is to find an interested administrator or teacher who's willing to pilot the program. We will sometimes go in and do a professional development for a group of teachers where we run through the same kind of activities, a progression of activities, and have them try out orienteering, and then talk to them about what their constraints are and what they could imagine doing with orienteering in their school, like doing a pilot program or whatever. So if you can get some interested teachers or administrators and then have a session with them, that's a good starting point.
Okay, thank you.
Tatiana, if we are not already connected, would you send us an email like admin@navigationgames.org so that we can have the conversation?
Of course, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say I had no idea that the scope of this effort was as big as it has been so
Well,
far.
then I'm glad that you
We've
were
managed
here.
to do 30 odd conferences
Uh-huh.
since you began. Do you know how many people have contacted the YMP about getting a map made as a result?
Yeah, I didn't do that. That's part of my homework that I didn't do before this. But Andrea, can you make an estimate about that?
At least this year, maybe a third of the maps that have been done came from some, either someone that was at a conference or someone that heard from someone that was at a conference. But we're at 30 requests right now, and some came in last year. So I would say 10 maps.
Okay, I wasn't keeping close enough track to realize the YMP was that busy as well. I mean, there was definitely an initial surge when it first began, and then things dropped a little bit, as I recall. But I guess this is a way of keeping the demand coming in. Cool.
Yeah, we're about to, I think I mentioned that we're about to do a webinar for the American Camp Association in December. And I think we'll have a little bit of a push to also attend regional ACA conferences in 2026. And so we're hoping to get some map requests that way. That's going to be a little bit of a challenge though, because a camp map is typically going to be bigger and more wooded than a school or urban park map. And we'll sort of deal with those case by case, but getting those maps made is going to be harder because YMP is generally a remote cartographer and then a sort of inexperienced non-orienteer who's on the ground doing the field checking. But I think it'll be a good problem to have if we have a bunch of camps that want to do orienteering and need a map. Well, thanks a lot for attending. I want to encourage everybody to go back to your clubs and get the word out and see if there's other people who might be interested in presenting at conferences.
Yeah, just if no one else has questions, the conference in 2027 you said you were going to be aiming for?
Yeah, the National PE Conference.
Where is that taking place?
I don't know. I don't know if they know yet, but maybe Shape America.
Have they decided what the dates are even?
Yes, it looks like it might be in Charlotte, North Carolina in April. No, yeah, April 7th to 10th in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh. Okay. Joseph may be interested. No, Joseph and Matt. I don't think anyone else from North Carolina is on the call.
David Waller also did helped me with one conference. He's from Bach, I think.
Barb, are these conferences that you're showing all the conferences that you have coming up next year, or
No,
is
they're
this-
not. They're just ones that Emily has collected information on.
Okay.
But I think there's probably at least 40 different PE conferences in different states that are not on here. She prioritized getting the ACA ones and the AEE ones, but I don't see a lot of the PE ones.
Because I think, yeah, she had one, I think, in Gettysburg that, we said we would go to. So that wasn't on there. So,
okay.
and Atlantic City may not be too far out of our realms, just so you know.
Oh, okay. Atlantic City.
And if Gettysburg is on the list, it would be great to know where it's going to be, because we could get a map done
Oh, great. Okay.
ahead of time.
All right.
Yeah. We have the resources to do maps.
Okay, that's great. It's really heartening to hear this, Jim Arsenault and the Franks, because I had been feeling very tentative about bothering clubs who might feel like, oh, this is like a burdensome extra thing, and I don't want you to go to a conference in my area and then have all these teachers asking me for help. So I really don't want to burden clubs that don't have the bandwidth to do support. I'd rather have teachers just come to club events, and then if teachers need extra support and the local clubs can't provide it, then Navigation Games could provide it, or we figure out some other way. But it's great to have people who are willing to help out in a proactive way. That's wonderful.
And DVOA supports us because we keep records, as you showed earlier, because that supports our nonprofit when we're doing our tax returns and stuff.
Right.
So for them, it's valuable. For us who are, working very hard to promote the sport, they support us and they see the outcome of what we do. So
I would encourage all the clubs to be doing that. I mean, it only supports their nonprofit status as well.
One thing to add on the maps is, at the moment, not all the conference maps are on there's this map on Orienteering USA that has all the YMP, or most of the YMP maps will ultimately be published with a pin. And the conference maps are slowly making it onto that map too. They have an overprint that they are conference maps. So you can always look up and see what maps are out there, and should also be able to see which are conference maps.
great.
I can never find YMP for some reason. Resources, youth development. There we go.
Cool.
Well, thanks again for coming, everybody.
Thank you,
Yes, if no one has a last question or comment, we can wrap up. And thank you, Barb, for enlightening us.